Mr. Schulz, first of all, thank you for accepting our request for an interview.
Thank you.
So, what are your expectations from this summit? Can 28 member states, along with their African counterparts, really agree onto something? Poland isn't here, the Visegrad states are against burden sharing, and everybody wants to protect their own turf.
We must continue to convince all member states of the European Union first internally that migration is not a burden, it is a reality, and it is a challenge, a global one. And answers to global challenges, to global problems, can't never be national. The European Union must give an answer. And therefore, to manage that refugee crisis, to manage that immigration, to manage the migration problem, we need all member states on board. And therefore, the Europeans must first of all clarify internally the situation. Then we can dialogue with the Africans. And your question is absolutely justified. There's a lot of member states who don't want to participate for the time being, but we should not give up and try to find a common solution.
Do you foresee that the European Union shifts gear from keeping migrants out to a more direct involvement in border countries like Libya, assisting in law enforcement to stop smuggling and monitoring human rights conditions to stop the exploitation of asylum seekers?
I think first of all, you touched on three different questions. Libya is one of our biggest problems. We need a government of national unity. I hope that Bernardino Leon will achieve finally to convince both sides in Libya to agree and to build a government, because that gives us the chance to negotiate with somebody about the cooperation with Libya. We have no real interlocutor for the time being. Secondly, no question that we must discuss with our African partners here that support and cooperation is depending from the rule of law and from the guarantee of individual rights. And if we achieve to convince more countries to guarantee individual rights to citizens, to avoid military conflicts, and to invest in a sustainable growth and employment strategy in their countries, the number of migrants will automatically reduce. That means it is in our own interest and in their interest. And the third element is the protection of those who are fleeing from their home because of a civil war or political persecution is a key element of our European identity. We should be solidarity with those who need protection. And therefore, we should continue to stick to that value, that the Europeans, as a rich part of the world, contribute to protect citizens. But that should not prevent us to do the utmost to develop regions from where the refugees are coming, to improve and here restart. Example, Libya, national unity, and then a well-structured development in the country.
Mrs. Mogherini has gone to the United Nations to ask for security permission to bomb smugglers' boats. Shouldn't the European Union shouldn't it be engaging with Tripoli local communities and promoting human rights in Libya instead of showing off an iron fist?
It is without any doubt that all the measures must be taken to help and to protect people, but the fight against smugglers is also to help and protect people, because we can't step aside seeing and facing the development of quite an industry of smuggling. There are billions to earn in that area, we know it. And what Federica Mogherini asked for is not to bomb boats. She asked a permission that in case we could avoid irresponsible transports of people on boats who are absolutely not able to transport people on sea, if we could destroy them to avoid that they are used. This is a kind of ultima ratio, and as far as I'm informed, until today it didn't happen.
You personally have proposed legal channels for migration. Should the European Union also challenge regional allies who escalate refugee-producing conflicts, like Turkey, for example, and its role in the Syrian conflict? Should the European Union also seek ways of assisting border countries hosting refugees near their homes, like Jordan and Lebanon?
Jordan and Lebanon are the two countries with the highest number of refugees from Syria, and they need our financial support. This is without any doubt. The other way around, the fact that the donors conference promised to these two countries more than 4 billion euros because millions of refugees are in these two countries. Jordan has 5 million inhabitants and 2 million refugees in the country. The fact that the promise of millions to support them was not kept, that from the 4 millions until today not half of the amount is paid, that the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the World Food Programme had to reduce the per capita spending for the refugees in the camps to 50 cents a day, triggered the next wave of refugees, because people say if we can't survive here, then we go to Europe. That means to pay the money, to stick to the promises, is the best instrument to avoid such riskful developments as we have it for today. Therefore, yes, we must support these countries, on which is concerning Turkey. I visited refugee camps in Turkey. This is a role model what happens there for other countries. No single Syrian refugee is threatened in a Turkish camp. The other way around, they are well treated, there are schools, there are hospitals, there are apprenticeship for young men and women. This is really highly acceptable what the Turkish government is doing there. But on the other side, we know that the situation of we all know that the internal situation in Turkey is difficult, and that the Kurdish question is unsolved, and that there is a lot of question marks about freedom of speech and the media. So this is for us an ambiguous situation. On one hand, I can't criticize Turkey for the treatment of refugees, but there is a lot of question just in the progress report of the European Union published. We must find a pragmatic way, because we need Turkey, and therefore we should cooperate with the Turkish government, but we must clarify there is no rebate on individual rights and on fundamental values of the European Union.
Yesterday, you urged member states to match the 1.8 billion figure which the European Commission is allocating for the Emergency Trust Fund. Do you think that the member states will actually deliver on this promise, and how important it is that funds are delivered to Africa?
As I said, a promise which is not kept is not only in our private life a damage to credibility. If I promise something to you and I don't keep it, you will be disappointed about me. And if this is repeatedly the case, you would at the end cut the relations. Because why we should cooperate with uncredible people? And this is on the international level the same. If you promise and promise and promise and nothing happens in the follow-up, citizens lose the trust to institutions, and the relationship between the countries get a real damage. And therefore the European institutions mobilized this 1.8 billion for the trust fund, but that's not enough. Everybody knows we need at minimum the same amount. And member states of the European Union were able to mobilize hundreds of billions of euros for the banking system. And here they are not able to stick to what they promised in an amount of 1.8 billion. Therefore, I asked them to pay the same amount.
Prime Minister Joseph Muscat has repeatedly called for a global solution, a global mechanism to address migration. He's calling for a sort of Bretton Woods type of agreement. How would you see such a mechanism operating?
I share his view. This is a global problem, and Joseph Muscat, as a prime minister of a country strongly affected by the migration problem, not since months, since years, is absolutely right. And I think an island in the middle of the Mediterranean understands much better than other countries that it is a global challenge. That will not disappear because winter is coming. It is a problem, and the Europeans must understand that we are living in moving times in the real sense of the word. These are moving times, and people are moving in a globalized world, where with our iPhones, so we know when in Peking is a car crash. We know it in the moment the car crash happens. To believe, but people will not travel around the world, will not move. This is a big error. And therefore the Europeans and the world entirely must find a system which is able to manage that reality.
Mr. Schulz, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.